Something I was surprised to find out while researching the fights of the four kings of boxing was that 3 of the 4 kings had an alter ego that they adopted in the ring. Some even had multiple personas, along with long-standing rituals they used to transform into these alter egos. For instance, Leonard looked into the mirror before each and every one of his fights. If he saw Sugar Ray looking back, he knew he could not lose the fight. After all, Sugar Ray didn't lose. Sugar Ray was invincible. But if he saw average Ray Leonard looking back, he believed that the odds of victory had been greatly diminished. When Leonard got into trouble, he had a separate persona who he referred to in the third person, known as the Street Fighter. Likewise, Hearns would talk about the Hitman in the third person, describing him as a whole other entity. And Hagler explained he had an inner monster that lived inside of him, tearing at his cage until fight night when he unleashed him and in fact became that monster himself. Duran was the only man of the 4 kings who had no alter ego, perhaps because he made no effort to contain his inner monster in the first place. This phenomenon of alter egos is not exclusive to the 4 kings of the 80s. Today, heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder speaks of his persona as a whole separate entity, even saying that he and the Bronze Bomber at times want 2 different things. Wilder even meditates before each fight to help him channel what he feels is a different state of consciousness, one where he completely turns into his alter ego. For me, says Wilder, when I turn into the Bronze Bomber, it separates me from all those other fighters. I have a scary feeling when I turn into that man because I'm stronger. The way my mindset is, the energy that it's channeling, all of that is real. Tyson adopted the alter ego of Iron Mike, which came into being one night after his mentor Customato mentioned he wished Tyson was bigger. The comment hurt Tyson so bad he had to hold back tears. To quote the man himself, "That was the day that I turned into Iron Mike. I became that guy 100%. I wasn't completely emotionally invested in being the savage that Cuss wanted me to be before then. But after that talk about me being too small, I became that savage. Cuss wanted an anti-social champion, so I drew on the bad guys from the movies. I immersed myself in the role of the arrogant sociopath." Alter egos are common outside of combat sports as well. Bo Jackson claims that he never played a day in his life. Jason did. That's right. Jackson channeled Jason from Friday the 13th to help him channel his uncontrollable anger into a calm, calculating form of aggression. Likewise, Kobe Bryant created the Black Mamba, explaining that I had to separate myself. It felt like there were so many things coming at once, it was just becoming very, very confusing. I had to organize things. Kobe handled his personal life, and the Black Mamba handled things on the court. So the question is, why does adopting a persona work so well for so many athletes, and especially for those competing in combat sports? The first, most obvious reason is that it may be one of the best ways for a fighter to eliminate doubt and fear, pushing their insecurities into the back of their minds. For instance, when Leonard first fought Thomas the Hitman Hearns, he felt an uncontrollable amount of fear creep in, even though he had seen Sugar Ray in the mirror before the fight. But then he saw Muhammad Ali sitting in the audience. He chose at that exact moment to channel Muhammad Ali, becoming him for the duration of the fight. Because of that, his fear disappeared. There was no way that Hearns could scare him, because he was now the greatest. Tyson dealt with fear in a similar way. To quote Tyson himself, "As soon as I come into the ring, I'm golden. No, stop it, that's not true. When I come out, I have supreme confidence, but I'm scared to death. I'm totally afraid. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of losing. I'm afraid of being humiliated. But I'm totally confident. The closer I get to the ring, the more confident I get. The closer, the more confident I get. The closer, the more confident I get. All during my training, I've been afraid of this man. I thought this man might be capable of beating me. I've dreamed of him beating me. By that, I've always stayed afraid of him. The closer to the ring, the more confident. The closer to the ring, the more confident. Once I'm in the ring, I'm a god. No one can beat me." Here Tyson did something similar to Leonard's mirror ritual and assigned a rule to trigger his persona. Tyson's rule was that as soon as he entered the ring, he became unstoppable. Tyson the man could be afraid, but Iron Mike the god could not. All of his fears simply melted away. Leonard's, Tyson's, and Wilder's pre-fight rituals have an ancient precedent. Most, if not all, cultures at one point engaged in complex rituals before going into battle, most encouraging some sort of transformative effect. Whether it was calling strength from ancestors, or channeling powerful gods or demons, or animal spirits, these initiations fortified the soldiers and relieved some of the fear of death and injury. Wilder even holds a similar belief, that he may be channeling an ancient warrior ancestor from Nigeria. And as Tyson would later relate about his fight to take the heavyweight championship, "I was arrogant, but I really felt that my time had come. In my sick head, all the great old-time fighters and the gods of war would be descending to watch me join their company. They'd give me their blessing, and I'd join their club." This is not at all to suggest that adopting an alter ego can somehow create skill in a fighter where there is none. But there does appear to be a myriad of psychological benefits to creating a persona that is imbibed with a certain set of unshakable beliefs and ideas. Killing fear is a major benefit, but there is also a far darker and more morally complex component of adopting an alter ego. The idea of offloading the responsibility for your actions onto someone else. To quote Wilder when he was asked about his repeated assertions that he wanted a body on his record, "It's not me who wants a body. That's the Bronze Bomber. He want one. I mean, I always tell people when I'm in the ring I am the Bronze Bomber. With him it's so crazy. Everything about me changes. When I'm in that state of mind, I don't care about my opponent. When I do what I'm supposed to do, then I come back to being Deontay Wilder." Humans are complex, and hurting someone in a fight is bound to stir up contrasting emotions, some of guilt, and some of pleasure. The darker side of ourselves, the one that may enjoy hurting people, was named the shadow by prominent psychologist Carl Jung. For most people, a large part of their shadow is how much they deeply love violence. To quote Leonard on his first fight with Hearns, "I couldn't have stopped even if I had wanted to. The exhilaration as each shot met its target, the most wonderful feeling in the world. I fed off the roar of the fans, and the sight of my opponent in trouble, ready to be destroyed. And to think there were people who would question if I could be ferocious enough when it became necessary. How wrong they were. I loved to hit other men. I loved to see them crumble." Hard to believe those same words are from a man so afraid only minutes before. Once a person becomes someone else in their mind, their usual inhibitions can disappear. Tyson idolized not the elegant and charming boxers of the past, but the meanest, most intimidating men to step in the ring. He particularly tried to channel Jack Dempsey, once saying, "He wanted to maim you. He didn't want you dead. He wanted you to suffer. He wanted to shatter your eye socket, destroy your cheeks, your chin bone. That's what I learned from Mr. Dempsey, and I believe I learned it well." Tyson found at times that his ring persona would make its way out of the ropes and into his personal life, escaping his cage at inconvenient times. In his book Undisputed Truth, Tyson wrote at length about his struggles to contain Iron Mike, relating that it was almost impossible. Quoting Tyson, "That guy, he follows me. That's my alter ego when I'm afraid. I can use Iron Mike as an excuse, but I owe that to all the self-gratification I got out of being that person. It took me away from being that scared little kid to being a feared person, which I thought at the time was a respected person." A tragic example of a fighter going too far because he lost his inhibitions may have been Sugar Ray Robinson's fatal fight with Jimmy Doyle. Quick note, none of the footage used for this segment will be of Doyle or his fight with Robinson out of respect for the former boxer. Robinson was set on canceling his fight with Doyle, as he had had a dream that he would kill Doyle in the ring. But a priest convinced Robinson that his fear was unfounded, and Robinson went into the fight completely confident that he could not seriously hurt Doyle. Tragically, Doyle would later die of his injuries. Although this is conjecture, it seems worth exploring that the one time Robinson was assured of his inability to seriously injure his opponent, he ended up fatally damaging him. Perhaps Robinson picked up on something in Doyle that led him to have the dream in the first place, but then when Robinson felt released by the priest before his fight, he felt no need to temper himself or pull his shots. Perhaps his inhibitions towards violence were completely taken away because he believed he had the assurance of God himself that his opponent would come out all right. In Robinson's case, his absolute belief was in divinity. In the case of dark alter egos, the fighter believes they cannot seriously hurt their opponents either. The alter ego is the one who hurts. They bear the responsibility, not them. The morality of combat sports is a complex and delicate subject that I'm not going to touch on too much in this video. But I will say before moving on that one of the great strengths of martial arts is that it allows us to channel these darker inclinations, our own shadow, into something useful or even positive. The last component of adapting personas is probably the most powerful, and that is that it allows fighters a framework from which to put everything they've learned together, hyper-focusing on the task at hand. Coaches call it the zone, hipsters call it flow state, Dragon Ball calls it ultra instinct, and Bruce Lee said that it hits all by itself, and not to focus on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Whatever you want to call it, the zone is a state of mind where you are completely dialed in and operating at maximum competency. You are able to effortlessly use all the things that you have learned and put them together seamlessly without trying to. And the reason you don't need to worry is because the person you are at that moment is infallible. They will and cannot lose, because the person they are will and cannot lose. You don't need to focus on your fears or your inhibitions, or even the outcome of the fight. Your persona has that covered, because oftentimes it's easier to believe in others than in ourselves. Let me know in the comments if you think this is a useful, interesting tool or completely ludicrous. My wife Anna, who has a fancy degree in psychology, has posted links to relevant studies in the description of this video. If the psychology of fighters and what they go through during the process of training and mid-fight interests you, you may want to check out our new graphic novel, Mortal Weapons. Written by myself and illustrated by the great Iman Malki Rashid. It comes in at a hefty 100 pages with an 8x11 page size, and is full of real-life strategies and techniques. And best of all, if you pre-order right now, you can purchase Mortal Weapons for only $6.99. The links are in the description and the comments below. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.